Recording. All right. It says we're recording. So this is episode 11 of the Northwest Edmonton show with me, Trevor Aboussafy, and we have a very special guest today. This is councillor for currently Ward 2, which will be the new Anirniq ward. Councillor Bev Esslinger is joining us today, and welcome, Miss Esslinger. How are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Good. Yeah, we're very excited. You're the first actual council person to be on the show. Everybody else up to this point has just been a candidate, and I got an email today that your coworker, Mr. Knack, is going to be on the show as well coming up in a few weeks. So, yeah, we're moving along here, getting through everybody, and thank you for being the first official representative of the city to come on the show. And yeah, we thank you very much for that. I hope everybody is going to get some good info from you here, and we're going to have a great show.
Thank you. It's always a great chance to have another way to connect with people.
Good. Yeah, absolutely. Why don't we start off with you just giving us your biography here. Tell us a little bit about you, where you came from, how you got here.
Well, I have been in Edmonton for, I don't know, since 1981, I think. So I've been here a long time. Had my family. I have 2 children. I have 4 grandchildren. And I really got involved with politics as a school trustee in Edmonton Public Schools. I had been on so many of the committees. The current trustee at the time says, "Why don't you run for school trustee?" I said, "Why?" He goes, "You have been on every committee." And so that's really when I started getting involved in politics. So I ran unsuccessfully. But I realized, sometimes you have to run more than once to be successful. And I did, and was able to serve 2 terms, and 4 of those as board chair for Edmonton Public. So that kind of got me involved in politics. And I had left because my mom was sick, and I was part of her care team. So I got away from politics, took a leave. And when Kim Crucial was going to step down, she said, "Bev, are you going to run in my spot?" And I said, "I never thought about running for the city." She goes, "But I know one thing." And I said, "What's that?" "That you'll take care of my people, because that's what it's always been about for you." And so that's really kind of made me think about it and think, well, I do care about people, and that's really what's got me going. And I thought we had a good city, and if I can make it better and serve people, then I would do it. So that's really what got me going into politics. Cool. And I have been successful for 2 terms to date.
Right. So you were first elected to council in 2013. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. And what time period were you on the school, or were you the school board trustee?
I was there for 6 years. I think it's about 2004 to 10.
Okay.
Something like that. I think that's around right.
Okay. Well, I suppose if your re-election campaign is successful and Miss Crucial is successful in her mayoral bid, you guys could be working together again too. That could be interesting.
Yeah. We've never served on the same council. I was with the school board, and we served the same ward. So it was always great to work with her. So I think there's so many out there running now for mayor. I wish her all the best.
Yeah, no, there's a big slate of candidates. There's a big slate of candidates in Anirniq as well. We've got lots of people.
I've made it look too easy.
I guess so. I guess I think maybe a couple people assumed you weren't going to be running this time, so they threw their hat in early. But
yeah, I've heard that as well.
That was my speculation early on, anyway. I hadn't heard if you were going to be running again. So I thought a lot of people kind of thought, well, if Bev's not going to be in the race, maybe I'll throw my hat in. And I think that's how we ended up with so many candidates. But here you are running for council again. And let's see, let's get started with the first question that I had. These are the same So if anybody who's watching this now has not watched the previous interviews, we kind of have the same 4 or 5 questions that I ask everybody. So if you've seen an episode before, the format here is going to be similar. If you haven't, these are the same questions that I'm asking everybody to kind of just get a feel for all of everybody who's running. So let's dive in. First question is, what specific campaign issues are most important to you personally in this election?
I think we're in a challenging time. I think with the pandemic and with the economy, we're faced with some great challenges, and many individuals are being challenged personally or in their business. So I think city building, supporting people and business is going to be job one. Really, my focus has always been about people, and that includes individuals. Did a lot of work with business improvement areas and businesses. You know, a lot of them are struggling. And even with today's announcement, businesses closed and opened during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. So trying to be supportive of business is important. Try to support people through some of the challenging times. Some of the work that we've begun, I'd like to see really work through is, for lack of a better word, the red tape reduction. We've proven that through the pandemic that we can improve our processes. I think about the timing to get patios open. That's really improved. So really, how do you support business and those kind of things? So that's really part of my focus is going to be really on how do we build a better city? What do we need? And we have people that are facing challenges. And we have vulnerable people. I think through the pandemic, we have saw that homelessness has come to the front. So it's an area we have to really work on. And we're doing that through building supportive housing, giving them homes to live in, and addressing shelter needs. So building a great city is really building strong people. And that's for the most vulnerable all the way up.
Right. Well, a city is just a collection of people that are all happen to be living in the same place, really, if you think about it in that way. So I agree. I think that the best way to improve the city is to improve the lives of the people who work there or who live in the city and work in the city. So that's a great answer. Thank you very much for that. I wanted to clarify something because you said today's announcement. And it is Tuesday, April 6th that we're recording this, but it's not going to be up until for a few more days because I have the arduous.
Oh, my apologies.
No, that's fine. I just want people to know when they're watching this that when you refer to today's announcement, that's the announcement from the provincial government that just happened today that we're going to be stepping back into
step one.
Called step one, right? Step one. So I still have yet to figure out entirely what that means, but yeah, it's going to be some more restrictions on personal care services and indoor dining and things like that. So
I believe libraries are closing too.
Yeah, maybe you
really
can give me some insight into this library thing, because this is something that's always sort of been confusing to me. And if you don't know the answer, that's fine, because the whole pandemic reaction, especially from the provincial government, is very confusing to me. But like generally a library, you're not in close contact with people, and you're not singing or yelling or shouting, and you're not sitting.
You're not supposed to be.
Right. Is there something specific about library? And the other thing too is libraries are controlled by the city, though, aren't they? They're not controlled by the provincial government. So what's with this, like, insisting on shutting the libraries down? Have you heard anything about that from the
haven't heard any rationale why they select libraries. They were at one point, they'd separated museums and theaters and libraries and whatnot. And libraries really are key in a city because they serve everybody. Mm-hmm. For many people, it is how they access a computer. It's how they apply for a job. They also we put social workers in them. We support individuals that need support. Right. Libraries have really become a go-to place. it's also a safe place. If you need to escape domestic violence, it's a safe place to get help. So we really, I don't understand the rationale, because libraries are so important in the heartbeat of a community. And I only can assume, because I don't know, that it must be about the potential for gathering together, or that many on one site. But I don't know.
But you'd think that, like, I agree with you. Libraries are a big part of our communities. And if you can keep businesses open by keeping them to a minimum or a percentage of their occupancy load, I don't know why we can't do the same thing with libraries. That doesn't make much sense to me.
And we have no control over that.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that's confused by this. So,
well, you know, it's unfortunate, because I said there's such a valuable community connection point for many people.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, next question. Thank you for the input on the libraries, by the way. Next question I have for you is, given the diversity of opinions in the Anirniq ward, how do you intend to address the inevitable problem of having personal or ideological differences with the voters you intend to represent?
Well, there's always been that. I think in every ward or area that you serve, there's a diverse group of people with different opinions. And as a representative, I represent everybody. I often say that you need to be the voice for the voiceless, for those who don't even know they should be speaking up. Mm-hmm. And so the way I approach that is I try to use a variety of means to gain information on issues from people, because not everyone is on internet or has internet access, is on social media, Twitter, Facebook. I do a written newsletter out to my ward, and I've started doing that on a more regular basis because of COVID, as a way to get out. Because I really try to get out to a variety of community events so I could hear what's happening with people. But it's challenging during these times. How do you get that message out? I hosted my ward, the last few years, I've hosted a ward-wide event on a Saturday in September. And invite everybody out for free food. And we have many of the city departments and many of our partners like ABC Head Start or even TELUS come out and bring their variety of items. We have some cultural groups come and sing and dance and play. And, you know, it's really a gathering point for everybody is welcome. And you really meet a broad range of people. So I spend the whole time talking to people, different ideas, because they know I'm there nearby. So it's listening to them. And even if you may not agree with them ideologically, where you can serve them, you have to come and figure out how to serve them. How do you help them? And sometimes it's really about navigating the city administration to get them what they need. So you really are playing that key connector role.
Okay, cool. Yeah, you know what, last year, my family and I attended the fun carnival there at Grand Trunk, and my kids sure had a good time. They were sad when they heard it was going to be canceled for 2020 because of the coronavirus. So it was at 2019 we were there, and we had, you know, the bouncy castle, and they got to see the fire truck and talk to the police officers and get their faces painted, and it was a lot of fun. So that's a good thing. So from our family to you, thank you very much for doing that, and we look forward to that happening again when there aren't restrictions on gatherings and we can all get together again. That will be very nice to have again.
And this ward is so diverse because it goes from 111th Avenue all the way north to the Anthony Henday, that we were going to have a big pancake breakfast, a similar type of event in the south part of the ward, just as COVID hit. And it was like, oh no, because, you know, we had talked to the fire and the police, because you want to make sure that everyone has access. We heard that for some people, it was a bit of a challenge even getting to Grand Trunk. They're from the bottom, and so the lower part of the ward. So we were trying to move it around a little bit.
Yeah. Do you mind me asking what part of the ward you live in?
Sure, I live in Oxford and I've lived here over 25 years.
Okay, excellent. I used to live in Oxford as well. Mentioned it a few times on the show before. Good community.
Prior to being the city councillor, I was the president of the Cumberland Oxford Community League for a while.
Oh, good.
Great people here.
Yeah, it's really a very good active community league. I have lots of good things to say about the Cumberland Oxford Community League. And as I've mentioned before, also best spray park in the city. It's right next to Hill Wehampton. So.
Well, we don't have a building, but we have built 4 playgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
And that really speaks to the community coming together and really focusing on kids. I mean, and you probably then enjoyed the haunted forest, maybe for Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
It's always a highlight for many in the area. So even though there's no building, they have found a way to build community.
Yeah, and they've done a great job of it. I think that there's a lot of people that are, if you're running a community league or you want to see how things can get done, you don't need to have a community hall to get to do a lot of good things with your community league. And Oxford is one of those places that's doing a good job of making that happen.
And I think that's probably a model to move into the future, because there's many standalone community halls that are really struggling to keep in good repair and get enough rentals, which they can't have right now, to keep moving. So I think we're going to have to find ways that we could cohabitate community leagues with other buildings and different functions in order to serve people.
Yeah, I was involved with the Bettern Community League, and they have a really quite a nice building there as well. And it's always a struggle to keep the maintenance up on it. And you do generate some revenue from it when you have a hall rental. But, when you're charging a few $100s for a hall rental, and then all of a sudden the building needs tens of thousands of dollars worth of repair work, you start to wonder, what's really the value of that building? I mean, it's a great place for the community to connect to, but sometimes you got to make some hard decisions. So maybe it's best just to not have to make those decisions by not having a building. Maybe that is a good model for community leagues going forward.
I think a community hub where you can have some cultural groups, some recreational groups, different groups that come together, that might be a way. I just think financially, we're going to have to get creative and find out the best way to serve communities. We're fortunate in Edmonton having a community league system, because not everybody has it, and that certainly has helped people during COVID. They've really reached out to neighbors, get creative with Easter egg hunts by finding them in people's windows and all sorts of ways that they've emerged. So,
yeah, I agree 100%. Okay, next question I have for you is, what's the reason you originally decided to seek public office? We kind of touched on that in your bio, but maybe you could expand on that a little bit for us.
Well, as I said, I was encouraged to run. And that most women actually are encouraged to run by somebody. And that's typical. And I started thinking about it. I mean, I got into politics because I was involved with people. And I just thought, I could help. I could facilitate people supporting individuals and building a great city, because I think we always have had a good city. We just have to take it to the next level. And I wanted to be a part of that. And I did have some concerns, but I wanted to be part of the solution rather than just complain about it.
Yeah.
So that's really what's really got me going and motivated. And there's things that I still want to continue to work on that are near and dear to my heart. And I guess if you're going to ask me which one that would be, I guess safety is probably the area that I've consistently focused on. First elected school zones, had been in the city for 40 years. That was one of my first motions, to put school zones in to keep the most vulnerable, our children, safe. I've worked a lot on transit safety, improving transit, DATS as well. And there wasn't a focus on gender-based violence prevention as an initiative, and that's something that I feel strongly about. Unfortunately, in Edmonton, we're one of the highest cities in the country for domestic violence and sexual assault rates. So some really work that we need to do on that front. So that's what's motivated me, and it's going to keep me motivated because I like to see some change there.
Yeah, for sure. I've been following you on social media for more than a couple of years now, and I know you've been, just as long as I've been paying attention, you've been a strong advocate for women's issues and for the fight against gender-based violence and sexual violence. So that's definitely something that I think we don't necessarily spend enough time talking about as a community and as a city. So thank you for doing what you've been doing on that issue. I know there's a lot of my female friends and relatives appreciate having somebody with that voice on council.
1 in 5 women are affected in their lifetime. That's 1 in 5 in our city. We have to do better. I agree.
All right. So we got that. Next question I have for you today. What do you most want people to know about you as a candidate, and why should they vote for you?
Well, I have a proven track record. I have determination. And I'll use a good example is there was a stretch on 127th Street that didn't have street lights when I was first elected in 2013. I think we called every week for 6 months before we got an answer. And I just wouldn't let it go. We found out that it was some contractor had not put the wires in, but the stands look beautiful. There was no way to get power to them. But we had all sorts of departments we had to work through. It was just, I was not going to give up until we got the solution. And some of the challenges you face in a city take that determination to keep going. I have been working on getting the whistle sensation of CN at 162nd Avenue for years. And hopefully this summer it's going to happen. But there's lots of technical hoops to keep going. I just keep pressing on. Just had a conversation with CN last week. So we're moving closer to some of those. So I guess that determination on a particular issue to keep moving forward is something that I like to do. I feel that I listen. I try to take the time to take as many phone calls as I can. I had someone say, "You actually phoned me back?" I said, "I try." It's not always on the same day because schedule doesn't allow that. And I love seeing people at all the events. I think that's the hardest thing right now. So to hear from people, their stories and how you can help build a better city. If I can come along beside someone and help them be successful, I think that's what I'd want to be known for.
Good. And that's, it's funny you mentioned calling CN, because in a previous episode on the show here, we had talked about a noise problem in Dunvegan with the switching station there, and your name had come up in a couple of news reports about that. So
yeah, and that's what I was talking to them about.
Yeah. So hopefully you've got them by the ear now, and you're the people of Dunvegan will be happy to know that somebody is still on that situation for them.
I've been told it's not my jurisdiction, but I keep saying, but people that are in my jurisdiction are having a challenge and they need to sleep at night. So it's an ongoing challenge. CN is a federal agency of their own. But we're going to host in the near future a joint meeting with CN, with the residents in Dunvegan, to talk about what's happening there.
Good. Have you reached out at all to Carrie Diot on that issue?
My office might have, I am not sure, but I know that we have reached out through every rail association possible.
All right. Well, I know Kerry, as the MP for Griesbach, his office is right next to that train station. So put a bug in his ear and tell him to walk across the street and knock on the door at the CN office.
Well, I've been talking to someone back east, actually,
Oh
as
yeah.
well as here, because I've been at this office many times. I find
All
when you
right.
go in person, you get better results.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, for sure. I know I live pretty close to the train tracks myself. I'm about 3 blocks away from the trains, and we definitely can hear it when it's a cool night and the air is thick and the wind is low. You can hear the diesels rev up, and I'm still 3 blocks away. You can hear them crashing into each other. So I know those folks that live right next to it certainly have to deal with that a lot more than I do, and I have some sympathy for them. So thanks for
You know,
doing
when
that.
their walls shake and things fall off, you know that they're crashing too loud or too close.
Yeah, and when we lived in Oxford, we were right against that line there as well. Like there was a berm. Our neighbors had the sound berm in their backyard, but in on a good day, if the train went by and it was clipping along, it would shake the whole house. And we were maybe at that point 200 feet or 300 feet from the rail line. So it definitely does impact your standard of living when you're living that close to the train. But the thing that shocked me is I lived there for quite a while, and I don't recall the trains ever getting to 100+ decibels of sound. And that's what the articles had reported, was that one of the residents in Dunvegan had actually measured the sound at over 100 decibels at like 4 o'clock in the morning. And being in construction, I kind of know what 100 decibels sounds like. I never remember it being that loud when I was there. So things have definitely changed at CN.
Well, I think there's two things. If it's a line coming through, like in the back of down in Oxford, Carleton behind us, that's a line that's coming through. And where we're looking there is getting crossing arms at 162nd Avenue. Because when there's arms and lights, they don't have to blow the whistles at night. But without lights and arms, you must blow every time you do an unmanned crossing.
Wow.
And that's been the challenge there. In Dunvegan, they're doing training, and so it's 24/7. And I didn't know this, but you practice by smashing into cars into each other. And it's a different type of noise than a train coming through.
Yeah.
And so two very different challenges on the same line, actually. And so just trying to work through, and I encourage them to be a good neighbor and figure out how to work with the community.
It seems to me that the trains don't always like to pay attention to the city. I know when I lived when I was in high school, I went to WP Wagner, and there's a train line right behind the school. And there was always frustrations where they would cross, I think it's 85th Street, just south of Argyle Road, and they would just park on the road. And I know the school had complained to CN a whole bunch of times and asked them not to do that during rush hour, because it was backing up traffic around the school and it was causing a safety issue for the kids walking, leaving in the evenings out after school. And that CN basically just told them, well, we'll run the trains whenever we feel like we're running the trains. So too bad. So you have it's dealing with them is going to be a challenge, no matter what year it is, apparently, or what part of the city it's in.
And the reality is they continue to grow. Trains are getting longer, or it seems like it. And so there's more business for them. So we have to figure out a way to work better together.
Good. Yeah, always nice when people can work together. You tend to get a lot more done that way than working against each other. So good. All right. I think we're coming up close to about a half an hour here, so we can start wrapping this up. If people want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do that?
Well, they can send me an email at bev.esslinger@shaw.ca. I'm on Twitter and Facebook as well. And our website will be converting to a candidate website shortly.
All right.
So all those are ways to get hold of us. And I think the phone number is 780-902-3939, I think is my campaign number. I'm still learning that one.
Good. Well, when we'll put in the description below for anybody who's watching this, if we're above, if it's Facebook, and below if you're watching on YouTube, we'll have links to all of Bev's social media and her email address and all there, so you can find that. Is there anything that you wanted specifically to talk to the people about today before we sign off? Are we missing anything?
No, and I think I've been thinking about that, and you were asking me, you were surprised that I was running again. I decided to run again because there's a number of people.
Sorry, I wasn't surprised you were running again, but I know there were some people who thought you weren't. So just want to be clear about that. But go ahead.
Well, we're at a changing time in the city, right? With a new mayor, at least 4 councillors are changing, are stepping back. So I felt like for stability, it's important to have people that have been engaged and involved. So that's one of the reasons that I am decided that I want to continue, is there's still work to do. And we need to grow. We're going to have to be really wise stewards of our finances in the next little while. As you know, the declining amounts we get from the province, it's going to make some challenging decisions as we go forward, but we just have to prioritize how we do that. And I think we have to work with our community. We heard such great information from the city plan and how to move forward, and how we implement that together is going to be some really fascinating work as we go forward from now.
Okay, excellent. Anything else? Throw it out there. Is there anything else you wanted to talk about before we sign off here?
Let's see. I've been thinking. A lot of people have asked me, and I'm just going to put this out there. They said, you don't do surveys on Facebook or Twitter, and I have looked at those things, but I don't think that they're the best way to get information. I find face-to-face dialogue. I'm doing a lot of Zoom meetings now, or really connecting with people in other ways is more effective. I don't need the polarizing views. I represent everybody's view. And so I think it's important to listen. I think politicians need to listen and find ways to listen. I realized that many of the seniors in this area, and I have a number of senior homes, the only way they get is written publications. They like that. Or they like it when you come and we bring cookies and we sit down with them in small groups and we talk to them. So I think finding ways to listen is the greatest challenge of politicians now. It can't be all online. It's just not enough. Nothing replaces face-to-face meetings with people. So I guess if people, said, well, you haven't talked to me, I'd love to. Please call, please reach out if there's a way, or your organization wants me to come. I've been to Girl Guides, I've been to Boy Scout groups, and everybody in between. I think it's important to speak to kids as well as seniors, because I think everybody builds a city. I champion child-friendly. Something I've been very proud of. Some of the work we've been doing is building the city for children, to make sure that they have what they need. Some of the work we've done in the downtown area, try to make it more child-friendly. But part of that is giving children voice. And you'll know some of the work we did with the city plan as we went out to schools and asked kids what a city should look like. I don't know if you're aware of it, but we made a comic book of all their results of what they wanted the city to look like.
Really?
To be able to gather that information, because they have a voice too, and we have a responsibility to engage everybody's voice, I think. So whether it's going out to schools or going to senior centers and community leagues of all kinds in between, we need to find that ways.
Good. Yeah, I think you're right on there. There's a lot of our politicians, and not necessarily anybody specific at the city, but I'm thinking more at the provincial and federal level, where a lot of politicians just tend to look at what's showing up on their Twitter feed or their Facebook page, and they're not engaging, and there's no replacement for in real life conversations. And I'm saying that being fully aware that you and I are talking over the internet right now. So
Well,
it's
I
always
can
tough
help
with
you with that. I
it's
think you have to use every medium you can.
yeah, it and it's been more of a challenge in the last 13 months here, but I look forward to when we can start having these meetings in person again. And I think you're right. We do, especially if you want to get the voices of children and seniors. You really need to talk to them in person. Us middle-aged adults, we can certainly know how to fire off an email when we need to, but my grandmother was 96 years old when she passed, and she had only been figured out, or she'd only figured out her email like 6 months before. So there was no way my grandmother was ever going to get on Twitter.
Well, my dad did, but he didn't realize when he said something to Twitter, he thought it was sending it to me. It went to everybody.
Oh.
So, but it really just speaks that a city, we have to find everyone's voice, right? And there's many people, I think we learned quickly is, there's single moms that are working 2 or 3 jobs to provide for their family. They don't have time to sit and do that email and get that out. They have a very valid voice. And how do you get that voice? So we have to get creative. There's people whose language may not be their first language, may not be English. So how do you get those voices, right?
Right.
So to me, it's trying to find ways to reach everyone. And it's got to be different ways. There's not a one size fits all here. But I think we have to try, and that's kind of what I've tried to, all sorts of things. I've done the Facebook Live and the big town halls, but I think I enjoy most those little dialogues and small that you didn't even know. I've had people stop me in a grocery store and have some great chats. And that's valuable information. I was getting my mail the other day, and an older gentleman came out and he says, I need to talk to you. You know that I like you and I like all the things you do, but what's up with the ward names? We had a really great conversation about the names, right? And he goes, I just didn't know all that. Maybe it's not that bad.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you don't know until you can talk to people.
Right. Okay, that's great. Thanks again, Bev. I'm going to sign us off here right away. Again, thank you so much for joining me on the show. And hopefully we'll get this out in the next day or two, or a few days here. And if anybody is interested in having one of those conversations with Miss Esslinger, you can find the information in this post and contact her through email or social media, and she'll be happy to get back to you. I know I've reached out a few times to you, and you've always been good about getting back to me when I've tried to contact you. So thank you for that. Thank you for that. And thank you again for today. Best of luck if we don't talk again before the election. And if we want to, maybe we can do this again before the election, if you're not too busy knocking on doors and shaking hands and kissing babies and whatever else you got planned for your campaign.
When it comes to September, once it turns dark, I'm happy to do it.
Okay, sounds good.
During the day you're out knocking doors, but once in the evening, it's a great time to do those things.
All right. Okay, thanks.
All right, take care. Thank you so much.